Welcome to the Stay Curious podcast brought to you by Alpha UK. My name's Chloe and this is Alex.
This podcast is all about being open-minded, staying curious and fueling your intrigue. We're going to be hearing stories from people all across the UK and beyond. We're going to be covering big things, small things, the totally irreverent as well as the deeply theological. We hope you have fun listening along.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Curious podcast.
Thanks everyone for joining us this week. It's going to be a great episode.
Yeah, and we're kicking off with your 40 before 40, which you've actually done one a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, I'm pushing on because I am turning 40 very soon and I must get a few more things ticked off. This week
was another holiday.
It was not a holiday, Chloe. I had to go to an Alpha conference in South Africa. My life is hard. And while I was there, I ticked off a few things. Number one, go to South Africa. Never been before.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a really good one.
Okay, but I'm going to waste two on this podcast because while I was there, I did something else really brilliant. And I climbed a mountain called Lion's Head. And on my original list of 40 before 40, climb a mountain was on there. And this was...
Lion's Head is hard.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, that's encouraging because for those people who've climbed Lion's Head, I don't want to appear as though I'm making more of a big deal out of it than it was. But I got up and went to climb this mountain and thought, a bit like Snowdon. Challenging, but halfway up, in the side of the rock, somebody has drilled in handholds and you literally have to actually rock climb. And I felt like I was climbing Everest. There are just ladders.
Yeah.
Halfway you have to climb ladders up to get there.
I haven't actually done it, but I watched it from Table Mountain on the cable car. I probably couldn't. But my brother-in-law did it and he said it was really hard.
Yes.
So well done, Al.
I think I don't want to... If any other people have done it, I don't want to make a big fuss because it's not the most difficult thing. But I did feel very, very proud of myself.
You're not a mountain climber or rock climber. It's not your thing, is it?
No, I mean, yeah.
You've climbed 4 mountains in your whole life. So it's quite impressive.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Tick it off. Big.
Well done.
40 before 40 tick.
Okay,
Time is ticking
good.
on that.
And our listener question this week is from Lauren from Wolverhampton. And she said, I'm on week 5 of Alpha, which is all about prayer. And she said, do you have any amazing answer to prayer stories?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I've got some serious ones, but one of my favourite answer to prayer stories was back in the day, I had just become a Christian, so maybe it was 2007, and I was living in London with 3 other people in a house share. And it was in the days before streaming or anything, and you had to go to the Blockbuster to rent a video, and we wanted to watch this film called 300, which is about Sparta. I don't know if you remember it. And I went to Blockbuster to rent it.
When times were simple.
Blockbuster. And Blockbuster, some sweets in a movie, and they didn't have it. And I got back, and when you get something in your head, my whole house was like, oh, that's what we were going to do tonight. We were going to watch a movie, and everyone's a little bit gutted. And I went, don't worry, guys, I'll just pray. Lord, in front of my 3 non-Christian housemates, Lord, we want to watch 300, please would you make it happen, amen. And then my housemate sort of disappeared to go and make dinner and stuff, and I went outside onto our deck and my neighbours were out, and I turned to my neighbours and I said, boys, you don't have a copy of the DVD 300, do you? And they went, oh yeah, here you go, you can borrow it. Went back into my housemates and I was like, the Lord provides.
That's amazing.
I think they thought that it had materialised out of nothing. I didn't tell them it was the neighbours.
I love that story. That's so good. Yeah, I have a similar fun one where Russo and I got married in lockdown, and my housemates moved out, so I was living with 2 other people. And Roos was living with someone. So we got married and he moved into my house. But he was still paying his rent on his flat. And I was now paying the rent of the other 2 people. So essentially we were both paying double rent. And we rinsed all our wedding savings on lots of double rent, which was such a pain. And then the year later we wanted to have our wedding celebration because we just did a quick, reading of the vows, and we had no money because we had spent it all on rent, and we said, oh well, should we just cancel the wedding celebration? But I said, oh, I really want to wear my wedding dress and have a little bit of a party. So I prayed and said, Lord, you hold all the money, and I know this is something silly and I'm already married and don't need another wedding day, but it's meaningful to me. And the next day I had an email from someone who said, hi Chloe, because I've had more time in lockdown, I've been looking through our records, and years ago you did some work for us, and I realised no one ever gave you a gift for it. I've just transferred X amount into your bank account, and it covered some of the most important things we wanted to do at our wedding.
Nice.
And I just love that, it wasn't hugely important, but God knew that it meant something to me. So
the Lord knows.
300 and weddings.
Really good.
What a blessing.
Good answers to prayer.
Yeah.
Well, we are we are curious on this podcast, so that the listeners can be curious via us, and we have guests so that we can be curious about their lives as well. And this week on the Stay Curious podcast, we are curious about what it takes to be in healthy ministry over the long haul. We're joined on the podcast today by Pippa Gumbel. Pippa Gumbel is the co-author of the Bible commentary with Nikki and Pippa Gumbel, which takes you through the Bible in 1 year. She has been involved leading HTB, a lively Anglican church right in the heart of London you were leading that for 17 years.
On the staff, 19 years before that.
Wow.
And coming to the church before that.
You have been involved in Alpha all across the world, as well as in the UK and at HTB, both running an Alpha group and then supporting churches all across the globe to run Alpha. And if we named all the other things, Pippa, that you have been involved with over the years, we wouldn't finish the podcast. But to us, it seems like this incredible, full life of Christian ministry, and that God has really used you to do so much. Has it felt like that to you?
I mean, it's such a big question to ask. In some ways, I think it's a little bit like your children, when they come, they're these tiny things. And now Henry, our eldest, is sort of 6'3", and I keep thinking, how did he get that big? And I think looking back on the ministry, I'm just amazed what's happened. I think sometimes I suffer from imposter syndrome. The places we've been, the things we've done, even leading HTB, it's just such a huge, huge privilege with amazing people. Where whatever we've done, wherever we've been, it's because it's the family of God together. And so I feel very blessed, actually, and privileged that we've been on this journey. And honestly, I think I've just muddled through. It hasn't been this great big plan. Yeah. And I've just done the next thing that you have to do.
When we think about all those things that you've been involved with, from our perspective, it seems so huge, but you've carried it with such humility. And I think when people think about you, Pips, and I've worked with you on and off for 10 or 12 years, the thing that comes to mind straight away is your humility. And I remember over the years you've said that you didn't ever consider yourself a leader. It wasn't, and the way you've described how like a child it's grown and you've just done the next thing. Was there a moment when you thought, I'm gonna have to really lead here?
Mm-hmm. I think it was a gradual dawning. When the kids were young, I was perfectly happy to concentrate on them. I always was involved with Alpha and having home groups in our house and all those things. But I think it was a combination of going to a conference, and Christine Kane, who said to me one day, why aren't you doing more? You should be leading the women in the church. And I was, what? And anyway, and then I kept saying, oh, there are plenty of other people who can do it. There's lots of people more gifted in that. But she said, no, God has put you in that place and you need to step up to it. And I remember going back thinking, oh Lord. But maybe that's right. And the combination of that and feeling that people feel that they're lost, I think, not a family. A lot of people, especially in London, but perhaps everywhere, are longing to feel safe within a family, and actually church is family. And therefore to lead it with Nikki together. And he was always keen that I should do it. And so I think that dawning. One of the other things was I used to be so frightened at the early stages when we used to go to any of the conferences around the world. He'd always get me to get up on stage and say hello, hello to you all in Chicago. Lovely to be here. I was terrified. I used to shake with fear. And I remember saying to the Lord, if you want me to do this, you have to take that terror away, because I can't do it. And he did. I'm not saying I don't get nervous. I do get nervous. But that terror has gone. And I think that was one of the sort of turning points. And one of my favourite verses too is God's power is made perfect in weakness. So it's okay to be weak because his power is made perfect. So actually the weaker I am, hopefully the more power it is. So I think those are some of the things. I'm dyslexic, so I don't like reading lots of things. So I think that was another reason I never wanted to sort of stand up front. So there are lots of reasons why not. A bit like, I think it's Winston Churchill who said about one of the opposition people when he was serving in Parliament, said that man is a humble man with plenty to be humble about. And I think I feel a bit like that. I've got plenty to be humble about.
Oh, Pip, you are such an inspiration and a global leader. And it's interesting you said, Christine Kane said, oh, you should be leading the women. But men and women all over the world will look up to you and have learned from you. And yeah, you do an amazing job. And you are on your 101
Yep.
Alpha courses.
Yes.
I really want to know, how do you keep going? Because I've been in ministry a long time, and, well, I say a long time.
Yeah, it feels.
Yeah.
You're a little bit younger than
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I haven't been in ministry a long time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But with ministry, there's so much to do. And there's that kingdom call. And sometimes, well, it's good to rest and take that seriously. But sometimes there is a part of just the daily grind and getting up and going again and again and again. And so often some people say, oh, I don't think I can run Alpha again. But you have. Tell us about that.
I think it's one of the things we've just felt we always should do. Nikki's very keen on doing it every term. And I sort of say, really? and sometimes, I've always loved whatever term and got to know the people, loved them. And then at the end of that, you sort of think, gosh, I've got to start again in a few weeks, doing it again with brand new people. And that sometimes there is that feeling of, oh. And another thing I say quite often is, I'm doing this for you, Lord, when I'm not quite sure or I'm feeling a bit reluctant. I say, I'm doing it for you, Lord. But actually, every time we get to an Alpha group and there are new people and you start hearing about their lives and you start seeing God at work in them, you think, it's just too good. It's just too good not to do it. So actually, we love it because you see transformation in quite a short period, often people's lives. And I think it's a privilege people tell you what's going on in their life. We were with our lot last night, and it's such a privilege. They tell you their marriage broke up or their whatever it is, why they've come searching, desperate to find some healing, some answers. And I think it's a privilege to be there with them, doing that journey of faith. So wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, it's amazing. And it's so true, isn't it? Russo and I ran an Alpha this term, and January it was raining and cold, and it was the first night, and I admittedly turned to Russo and said, oh, I don't know if I can be bothered to do this another whole term. And at the start it feels like a lot of work, doesn't it? And then I came home that night and I was buzzing and I was like, it was amazing, and this is what it's all about, isn't it? I said, I could sit there and do that every night. And he said, oh, do you remember your attitude before we went? But I guess that's an encouragement, isn't it? If sometimes we feel a bit tired or weary, that actually it's what it's all about as well, that when we finish and have those amazing conversations with the people, as you say, it's bringing them closer to Jesus.
I'm surprised if sometimes, honestly, before either the first night of Alpha or Wednesdays at 4:00 and Alpha's, we'd run it at 7:00 on a Wednesday, I do not want to go. Yeah. And I think maybe that is the devil's tactic, trying to persuade you that you're tired, it's not going to be worth it, it's a waste of time, why should I have to do this again? And I think that because it is frontline, this is seeing people come into the kingdom of heaven.
This is the most important thing. We can spend our entire life in prayer meetings, but actually sat with non-Christians sharing faith and life in Jesus, that is the most important thing.
It really is, yes. We had our Alpha Day last Saturday, and I got there and I knew one of them wasn't coming. And I got there and they said another one had woken up ill with food poisoning, that she really needed to be there. And I sort of slightly stomped around, feeling so disappointed. And then halfway through the morning, he walked in.
Wow.
And I was, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that you brought him. And he'd text saying he wasn't coming. And I just thought, God, you are good. You've encouraged me and you've brought him to where he needs to be. So thank you.
Well, it's we've talked about the breadth of things that you've been involved with, Alpha every single term and the 101st Alpha group. Once I said to you, actually, I think somebody else asked you a question and we were somewhere running an Alpha conference and they said to you, how do you get balance in your life? And you went, we don't have any balance. And then you expanded on that to sort of describe that if you spend your life trying to fight for balance. But has it, for people who are trying to wrestle with that, I'm trying to find balance in my life, ministry's busy, my family life, I've got young kids, what's your advice there?
I think it is important to have balance. I'm sorry. It might have been a bad day. I think we've done different things, but we've often got it wrong along the way. And when you feel you're not spending enough time with the children, or enough time with your spouse, or whatever it is, and I think we've often had to reassess things. I think it's also a feeling that you've got to trust the sovereignty of God. Because otherwise you feel, if I don't do this, if I'm not there, this isn't going to happen. You have to remember that God is bigger than all those things. So it is trusting God. Yes, there's a call, there's a cost, and God works in us to work these things out. And there is a cost in it. There is toil and struggle within that. But at the same time, we've got to take a long-term view. We've got to be still going, you young thing. In your 80s, you've still got to be going. And that actually, you have to be kind to yourself. I mean, obviously, we lay down our lives as Jesus said, but we do need to take rest, and we do need to have holidays, and we do need to have fun. We do need to have laughs and all those things. That is important. And we've always prioritized family. And that's very important to us. So I think not to feel guilty about having a bit of fun. So important. If you're not laughing at some stage, then I think life is much harder, and have friends around you. Because in the ministry it is tough. But I'm so grateful to friends that we've had a good laugh with. We may have shed some tears as well.
You have done it with friends, haven't you?
We've done it with friends. We still pray on a Monday morning, as you probably know, with Sandy and Annette Miller, who was our boss all that time, who we love dearly, who are in our 80s by Zoom, Nikki and Cilla Lee, Jeremy and Millie Jennings, Mark Elston-Dew and Trisha. And we've known them. Well, Trish, that most recently joined 30 years ago. So we've known them all our lives. And they have our backs and we have their backs. And we meet to pray on a Monday. We tend to laugh for most of it and pray for about 5 minutes. Jeremy saying, I think we should pray. But that's so important. It's important to laugh and it's important to pray.
And have friends. Because leadership, or people can say leadership can be really lonely. And I wonder why. Is it because people don't take time to invest in friendships? How have you done that? How have you kept these friends for so long?
I think we are very blessed. I mean, Nikki and Cilla, we've known actually before we were even Christians. I mean, so we've known them forever, since they're about sort of Nikki's known Nikki Lee since they were at school, so way, way back. But I think it is important. I remember when we were training in theological college and they were sort of saying funny things like, you shouldn't have friends in the church. And we were, why on earth not? And I understand they don't want people to feel there's an in crowd and an out crowd and all that sort of thing. But the church is your family, and we've got we've made wonderful, wonderful friends in the church through our alpha groups, through all sorts of things. And I think it's really important. Have we invested in our friends as much as possible? Sometimes our daughter gives us a little bit of a rocket and says we don't spend enough time doing, just having fun with our friends, because it's so easy to say, well, we've got the conference then and we've got the prayer meeting then, and there's actually no time just to go and have dinner with friends. But she's always saying, remember your friends, invest in your friends, and make sure you give them time.
Good advice.
I've been thinking about it recently. Even this morning, I dropped the kids off at school. I was walking back, and I think that perhaps I've noticed post-COVID, both in myself and in people who are around me, more of a temptation to work to make my life comfortable for myself. That the primary goal of my life is to make it as comfortable as it possibly can be for myself. And I really felt God give me a picture this morning of Mary smashing the perfume on Jesus' feet and her life being poured out. And I was like, when I look back, I want my life to have been poured out to the kingdom of heaven. And so if I can lead with that and then put other things in place to make that possible. Whereas I think sometimes I flip into my life is about having fun with my friends. And then if I have to do the minimal amount of work or ministry on the side to not feel guilty, it's like I think it's for
it's
our
a challenge.
leaders in our stage.
Yeah.
It is a real challenge.
Yeah, Rick Warren in The Purpose-Driven Life talks about this life on Earth being like a service station. It's kind of temporary rest stop, but you don't make a home at a service station on the motorway. It's temporary. You're not home yet. And often as Christians, we feel like we should be comfortable. And he says, we're not called to a comfortable life. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
It is a challenge.
And I wonder if it swung because there was maybe a few years where it was unhealthily swung in the other direction, where people were burning out and where the expectation was too high, and they weren't investing in their marriages, so marriage was unhealthy, and friendship. So it's interesting the way that you sort of talk about these things that you've put in place, which has led to a healthy ministry. Marriage must be one of them.
Yeah, and you said that you put family always comes first. How have you prioritised your marriage and your family? You know, you and Nikki have led Alpha and Church for years together. How long have you been married?
46 years.
46 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I mean, it is fun doing things together. I mean, I think we feel blessed. I mean, when Nikki first started, when I first married him, he was a student lawyer, and you know, we'd run a home group, but he'd come back with work and he'd say, "You start the home group. I've been given these briefs for tomorrow. I've just got to work." You know, and you realise that was could have been his life. And the person he was working for at the time said, "You've got to be prepared to cancel holidays, do everything because of the bar, because of the law." And of course, they're doing a wonderful job. And it wasn't that he didn't love it; he really did love it. But he felt ministry was even more important, and it was something we could do together, which actually I think is a great privilege. I think we've loved that.
And is there a moment where you say, okay, we're not going to talk about work? Do you sit down for dinner and say, okay, we're not going to talk about church or Alpha, let's just talk about me and you? Or do you have those moments? Or is it all just, it's all just fun?
I think it's difficult sometimes because actually we love it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and there are, you know, where do you draw a line? Because so many of them are our friends and everything. But having said that, we do.
Okay.
There are times. Nikki's probably better than me because I'm what was happening over there with that sort of thing? And he's, let's just have a break from that for now. And we do love watching movies or Netflix or, I don't know, going to the theatre. I mean, we hardly go to the theatre, but we would if we could, or going for walks or what, you know, doing other things as well. But I think it is important because it can creep in all these things. Not that it isn't fun. I think it's because we love it. But I think actually children make you stop more because when they're around, they're not interested. They want your attention to whatever it is.
What are you watching on Netflix at the moment, Pip?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. We've watched a little bit. What have we been watching? We watched a bit of Drive to Survive.
Oh yes, I love Drive to Survive. My favourite programme. Yes, I'm going to the Grand Prix in Barcelona in June.
No,
my our lodger works for F1 and got me VIP tickets to the Barcelona Grand Prix.
Really?
Paddock pass, garages, meet the drivers.
The listeners have heard all this before.
So excited, Pip. Honestly, and Liz loves it as well. So we're going together for my 40th.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? That's really wonderful. I mean, it's not something I would have been particularly interested before, but actually when you see the pressure that they live under, I think actually ministry has a lot of pressure, but I think their life.
Yes.
And they've got no balance. I mean, they are away all the time because our housemate who works for F1, he only does sort of 10 races a year from the races, and still his life is so difficult trying to be away because you have to go away for longer than just the weekend, obviously. And then if you think the drivers are 24 races this year, their life is just totally...
Well, we think ministry is hard.
Try
being an F1 driver.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a bit about your marriage, and we could ask you loads of questions about Nikki, but one story that we have heard quite a lot is Nikki's story of coming to faith at Cambridge University, and Nikki Lee, who you mentioned a little bit earlier, was integral in that and gave Nikki a Bible to read. Nikki read that Bible, and then, as we've understood the story went, Nikki came back to London and then did a terrible job of trying to convert you to Christianity as well. But we haven't really ever heard that story from your angle. So what were you doing? What was going on in your life when suddenly this very passionate evangelist came into your life?
I'd grown up in a sort of nominal Christian family. My parents would definitely have, tick the box Christian, and they're wonderful people. But we never talked about faith. We didn't have Bibles. We didn't pray. I had no concept that you could have a personal relationship with Jesus. And I went to a convent for some of that time, and there was a lot of church, but not much faith, really. And so it was something that was sort of there, distant to God. Yes, probably Jesus. Well, I think he was a man who lived in those days, and Holy Spirit, never heard of him. And so that was how it was. I had just met Nicky. Well, actually, I have to confess, I rang him up. I needed to get into a nightclub, and I needed a telephone number of somebody who was a member, and a friend gave me his number. And I just rang him up saying, would you get me and my friend into this nightclub? And he said, yes. So that's how I met him, went round to his house, and he got us in. And we became friends, but he was definitely atheistic. I can remember going to some breakfast meeting that was sort of evangelistic with him, and he was very argumentative about it. So he sort of thought no more. We slightly had drifted a little bit away. But it is true that he... after he became a Christian, he came up to me at a party and told me that I looked awful and needed Jesus.
Worst chat up line.
Yeah, ever.
The funny thing is, I think I went and said to the Lees, he's gone mad. And I think they just smiled, and I didn't realise that knowing smile was they were Christians too. But God is so kind, isn't he, that I was sort of probably a bit... I was going to lots of parties, having fun. We were young, we were in London. But then I came across a group of people who I didn't realise were Christians. And they started something called the Kitchen, which was a drop-in place where you could go. There was homemade soup, all these things, and go and chat to people and eat and have fun. And I thought it was really cool. So I started hanging out there, and not realizing they were all Christians. And then suddenly one of them started explaining their faith and got out a Bible, turned to John 10, verse 10, saying that Jesus said, I've come that you might have life, and life in all its fullness. And I remember thinking, yes, that's what I want. I can see in them something I haven't got, and I'd like that. I'm lost, really. I'm just going from party to people to whatever, with no purpose in my life. But these people, they're anchored, they're loving, there's something about them. So, and I remember going back and praying the first meaningful prayer I ever prayed that night, kneeling down by my bunk bed. I was sharing with four other young women and praying that first meaningful prayer, and feeling for the first time a connection, feeling that I wasn't praying to the ceiling, but I was praying to a God.
What was Nicky like when he found out?
Yeah, was he pleased? Yes. I can now date Pippa.
You see, I don't. You see, and I started getting involved with the Kitchen, and Nicky had stopped coming to London. At first, I think he was sort of while he was in Cambridge, and then he just turned up at the Kitchen one day and saw my name in the book, and sort of and so I think we hadn't sort of been communicating for a bit. So then he found out I'd become a Christian.
I hadn't realised that really your journey to involved him slightly, but actually was your own.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Was independent of Nicky.
Yeah.
And then when did you guys get together?
It was sort of gradual, really, over that time. We sort of became friends. And
did you like him though?
I think for the first time, I felt safe with him.
Oh,
and nice. And then a friendship developed. And actually, that's so important, isn't it, for the long haul of life. Is friend, you've got to go around some ups and downs in life, and to build that. I think we were very blessed that we had that, and we'd had this new journey of faith and excitement. And when Nicky sort of came back to London, we were frightfully excited, going to prayer meetings. We didn't go out once before. I think we went once to the ice cream parlour. We didn't go out once before we got married. I'm not sure that that's a good thing. We didn't go out to dinner or cinema or anything. We just went to prayer meetings.
Wow.
Oh, someone needs to tell Nicky you should have taken you on a date. Yeah.
Which was I think a little bit odd, but looking back on it. But I think we were young and enthusiastic. And I do feel we've made up for it. We have travelled the world since and been everywhere, and people have been so kind to us. And we've seen the world, and so I don't feel I've missed out in any way.
Your date nights now, you'll go for dinner, you won't go to a prayer meeting.
Yes, I think I feel I've probably done. I mean, I love prayer meetings, but I don't think I'd choose that.
For a date.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, Pippa, you've talked about all that God has done over the last 40 years of ministry, but you also said you want to be going strong in your 80s, and actually you finished leading HTB in summer 2022, and you talked about not retiring but refiring. So just give us a sense of what ministry looks like right now and all your dreams for the future.
I think we loved being involved with HTB, and being part of the team running it here has been the greatest privilege of our lives. And when we decided, we thought it was the right thing to step aside and concentrate on Alpha and the sort of the 2033 goal of the anniversary of when Jesus his resurrection, and working with lots and lots of other organisations on that. I think we just felt that was the right time, and also we were aware that we hadn't spent much time doing Alpha things when before we took over. We did a lot of conferences around the world. We went everywhere. And now we can say yes to things that we never could say yes to, and go all over the place. And actually, it's been really exciting. We've been, to Germany and to France. We
were just in South Africa together.
We were in South
and
Africa.
And you did some amazing things there. You visited some incredible stories.
Yes, absolutely.
And what was Alex doing, Pip?
Alex, every time he was allowed out, was lying flat on the grass trying to get some sun. He was bright red from head to foot.
It was so red.
Other people
Important meetings.
Everybody else was taking life quite seriously, but Alex, and we have to say Dan, were lying out like that.
Also, it's because our breaks are so small. They pack those.
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes. I was like this as soon as
you
I got...
still went red.
I did. I really peeled really badly.
Oh, did you? I'm not surprised. But it was an amazing place to go, and we went to some of the townships. We heard extraordinary stories of people who'd done Alpha in prison, and some of these prisons, Polesmore Prison is such a violent, controlled by the gangs, such a violent thing. And this guy had, because you have to join a gang to survive as a young person. He had killed somebody at the age of 14. And then, although he was young, he didn't get very long. And then again, he was sent off by the head of the gang to go and kill somebody. And it was one of those things, if you don't kill them, they'll kill you. You have to go up in the pecking order. And he did kill this person. And he was caught and then sentenced to a long sentence. But amazingly, they were doing Alpha in prison. I'm just, the teams that go into these places are amazing. And he has become a Christian. And not only that, somebody gave him some earpods, and he's been studying, and he's got a degree.
Well, he did that while he was in prison.
While he was in prison.
That's
in
amazing.
A chaotic place, just sat in the corner with his headphones on and got his degree while he was...
Wow.
And actually, you've got to be brave even to say become a Christian, because you usually survive just by being in a gang and the pecking order. And it's tough in those prisons. There are 40 to a cell and 20 beds. So anybody who has money rents the bed. So you can't be sure you're going to sleep. Where you're going to sleep. So the fact, and actually, he's the most lovely guy, isn't he? You met him too, Tandem. And we heard a few of these stories. So they're just so remarkable. Only Jesus can change a life like that. I mean, only Jesus can change my life. But when you see how dramatic the turnaround for somebody like that is, it's just so thrilling. So South Africa was amazing, but all these places that we've been to Israel, we've been to Cairo, we've been to Malaysia, we're just about to go off to Mexico quite soon, America and Rio. So it's
work on your tongue, Pips. Make sure in Mexico, in those 5-minute breaks.
I'm not taking a leaf out of your book.
Just wear sun cream and you'll be fine.
That's what I should have done. Pips, it's been amazing hearing both about all that God has done in your life and through you, and we are really inspired by you as a leader, the way that you carry all that God has put on your plate and that you continue to do that. Thank you so much for giving up your time to be on the podcast.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be with you.
Well, if you've enjoyed listening and if you have any more questions for us or you're curious about anything, then or a 40 before 40 for Al, then please get in touch. You can email us at uk@alpha.org or you can DM us on our socials, Run Alpha. Thanks so much for listening and catch you next time.